My name is Elias Thorne, a 70-year-old veteran living in a quiet suburb of Boston, Massachusetts. The house I call home is a modest two-story colonial on Maple Street, with a faded American flag fluttering from the porch, and a garden that's more weeds than flowers these days. I've lived here alone since my wife, Martha, passed away 5 years ago from cancer. She was the light of my life, the one who kept me grounded after all those years in the service. Now it's just me, my memories, and the monthly checks from the VA that keep the lights on and the bills paid. I served in Vietnam back in the 70s, a young kid from Dorchester who thought he was invincible. Came back with a Purple Heart, a limp from shrapnel in my knee, and nightmares that still wake me up in a cold sweat. But I built a life after that. Worked as a mechanic for 30 years, adopted a son named Marcus when he was just a toddler after his biological parents, distant relatives of Martha's, couldn't care for him. Marcus was my pride and joy. I raised him like my own blood, taught him to salute the flag, to honor commitments, and to always look out for family. He grew up, went to college on a partial scholarship I scraped together, and now he's a mid-level manager at a logistics firm downtown. Married, no kids yet, but he always promised he'd take care of me in my old age, just like I took care of him. Lately, though, things haven't added up. My VA benefits, pension, disability pay, and a small survivor benefit for Martha should be enough for a comfortable life. But for the past 10 months, I've been scraping by. The checks seem smaller, or maybe the bills are bigger. I've cut back on groceries, skipped a few doctor visits, even sold some old war memorabilia on eBay to make ends meet. I chalked it up to inflation, old age fogging my brain, but deep down, something nagged at me. A soldier's instinct, the kind that saved my life in the jungle. It started on a crisp May morning, just before Memorial Day. I was sitting at my kitchen table, sipping black coffee from a mug that read, "World's Best Dad," a gift from Marcus years ago, when the mail arrived. Among the junk was my monthly VA statement. I opened it, expecting the usual, but the numbers jumped out at me like incoming fire. My disability payment was short by $800. Again! This wasn't the first time. It'd been happening sporadically, but I dismissed it as bureaucratic mix-ups. Not today. I grabbed my reading glasses and pored over the fine print. There were deductions I didn't recognize. Medical co-pays for treatments I never had. Administrative fees that sounded phony. My heart pounded like it did back in Nam. I picked up the phone and dialed the VA hotline, but after 40 minutes on hold, a tired voice told me everything looked fine on their end. "Check with your bank, sir, and thank you for your service." Click. Frustrated, I logged into my online banking, something Marcus had set up for me a couple years back. He handled most of my tech stuff, said I was too old school for apps and passwords. As I scrolled through transactions, red flags waved everywhere. Withdrawals I didn't make, transfers to accounts I didn't know. One recurring payment caught my eye, $1,200 monthly to M. Thorne Consulting. Marcus's side business? But why from my account? I leaned back in my chair, the wooden creak echoing in the empty kitchen. Marcus wouldn't. No, not my boy. But doubt crept in like fog over the Charles River. I needed answers, but I couldn't confront him yet. Not without proof. That's when I remembered the VFW hall down the street. Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 147. A bunch of old-timers like me, swapping stories over cheap beer. Maybe someone there could help. That afternoon, I hobbled over on my cane, the knee acting up in the spring chill. The hall smelled of stale coffee and cigar smoke, familiar comforts. Old Joe Ramirez, a Gulf War vet with a prosthetic arm, was behind the bar. "Elias, you look like hell. What's eating you?" I spilled it all, the short checks, the weird transactions. Joe nodded, stroking his gray beard. "That sounds like identity stuff, or worse. My cousin had his benefits skimmed by a scammer. You talked to the VA advocate? We got one here, Sarah Klein, sharp as a tack, ex-Army JAG." Sarah was in her 50s, tough as nails with a no-nonsense buzz cut and a tattoo of the eagle, globe, and anchor on her forearm. She listened intently as I laid out my suspicions. "Mr. Thorne, this could be fraud. Let's pull your full VA records and bank statements. But if it's family," she trailed off, her eyes sympathetic. "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it." Over the next few days, Sarah and I dug in. She had access to VA databases I didn't know existed. What we found chilled me to the bone. Forged medical documents claiming I had authorized deductions for experimental treatments I never needed. Signatures that looked like mine but weren't. Subtle differences in the loop of the E. And the money funneled to Marcus's account. He'd been diverting my benefits to cover his debts. Gambling losses, bad investments, a failing side hustle. 10 months, over $12,000 gone. My own son, using me like an ATM. Betrayal hit harder than any bullet. Marcus, the kid I adopted at age 3, who called me dad with wide-eyed trust. How could he? I paced my living room that night, photos of us on the mantel mocking me. Marcus in Little League, me coaching. His high school graduation, my arm around him. His wedding, where I gave a toast about loyalty. Tears stung my eyes, but anger burned hotter. I wouldn't let this break me. Soldiers don't break, they fight. Memorial Day was approaching. A big deal at the VFW. Parades, barbecues, speeches honoring the fallen. This year, Post 147 was hosting a community event at the Boston Common. Sarah suggested we use it. Confront him publicly? No, Elias. But gather allies, fellow vets who've been through this, strengthening numbers. I reached out to my old squad mates. There was Hank Boomer Lawson, a demolitions expert turned accountant who could sniff out financial funny business like a bloodhound. And Lila Chen, a medic from my unit, now a nurse practitioner who knew medical forgeries inside out. They came over and we pored over the evidence in my basement, surrounded by dusty boxes of war relics. Boomer whistled at the bank logs. "This ain't amateur hour. He's used your social, your VAIG, forged docs from a clinic in Quincy. I can trace the IP on the online submissions." Lila examined the medical forms. "These treatments bogus. No record at the VA hospital. He's claiming PTSD therapy you never attended to justify deductions." By week's end, we had a dossier, emails, transaction histories, even security footage from the bank showing Marcus withdrawing cash from my account. Sarah filed a preliminary report with the VA fraud division, but I wanted Marcus to face me first, man to man. The night before Memorial Day, I couldn't sleep. Storms rolled in over Boston Harbor, thunder rumbling like artillery. I sat in my recliner, holding Martha's photo. "What would you do, love? He was our boy." Her smile seemed to say, "Fight for what's right, but don't lose your soul." Dawn broke clear and bright. The Common was alive with flags, veterans in dress blues, families picnicking. I stood on the bandstand with Sarah, Boomer, and Lila, my heart pounding. Marcus arrived late, looking hurried in a rumpled suit. He spotted me, waved casually. "Hey, Dad, didn't know you'd be speaking today." I nodded, gripping the podium. The microphone crackled. "Fellow veterans, friends, today we honor loyalty, not just to country, but to family." My voice steadied. "I've got a story about a vet whose son betrayed that loyalty." I laid it out, not naming names at first. The crowd murmured. Marcus froze, his face paling. When I pulled out the folder and read the evidence aloud, dates, amounts, forgeries, gasps rippled through. This thief used forged medical docs to steal benefits meant for a Purple Heart recipient. Marcus bolted toward me. "Dad, what the hell? This is a mistake." "No mistake, son." I handed him copies. "Your handwriting, on the forms. Your account getting the money." He stammered, eyes darting. I was in debt. Gambling got out of hand. I was going to pay it back." The crowd booed. Sarah stepped up. "Mr. Thorne, we're filing charges. VA fraud is federal." Marcus collapsed on the steps, sobbing. "Dad, please, I didn't mean to hurt you." Hurt. It felt like a gut punch. But seeing him broken stirred pity. Get help, Marcus. For the gambling, but you gotta make this right. The event turned into an impromptu support session. Vets shared similar stories, kids draining accounts, spouses forging checks. By day's end, the VA had frozen the fraudulent transactions, and Marcus agreed to arbitration instead of court. He'd repay every cent, enter rehab for the gambling, and face probation. In the months that followed, healing began slowly. Marcus moved back home temporarily, attending AA meetings for gamblers. We talked, really talked, for the first time in years, about my war traumas, his pressures at work, the void Martha left. It wasn't easy. Trust rebuilds brick by brick.